I want to bring in our team of reporters now. Justice and intelligence correspondent Ken Dilanian joins me right here on set. Vaughn Hillyard is covering the Trump campaign. He's in North Carolina. And senior national security correspondent Courtney Kube is at the Pentagon. Thanks to all of you for starting us off. Ken, let me start with you. Secretary Blinken made some headlines this morning by saying we've been tracking these threats for quite some time, and there may be people currently serving in U.S. government who are being threatened. What more do we know about the nature of these threats against the former president?
The U.S. intelligence community has been talking about this for some time. The Iranians are angry about the operation ordered by Donald Trump to kill Qasem Soleimani, a famous general from the Revolutionary Guard Corps, and they have targeted several people involved in that operation, and their list of targets appears to have continually expanded. Some of those people are out of government and have security protections that they normally wouldn't have because of this threat stream. So it's a very serious set of threats. Iran has a history of trying to pay people in the United States to carry out killings. They go after dissidents, and they have targeted American officials.
And the former president saying that he's now received an intelligence briefing. He says this is the first one that he has received. Do you have any reporting, Ken, on why now? Why did he receive this briefing now?
Not specifically, although we know that Trump and his aides complained that they weren't briefed when there was intelligence before the assassination attempts of this Iranian plot. And it's remarkable, just as an aside, that those two attempted assassination plots unfolded while he had enhanced protection. The Secret Service knew there was an Iranian plot to kill him. But so there was some anger about that in the Trump world. And there's generally a feeling among U.S. officials that we talk to that they want to lean forward on this now. There's no percentage in not briefing him. They want everybody to know everything. It's not clear at all that these are new threats to Mr. Trump. There's an ongoing sort of generalized threat environment around him.
And Trump also, as we said, and I think a lot of people are wondering, well, there were two assassination attempts against his life. It comes against this backdrop. Is there any link? Trump suggested that there may be. There's absolutely no evidence of that, right?
No, and we reached out to sources again today after he said that, and we're told once again, they can't rule it out. You can't prove a negative, but there's just no evidence at all linking Iran, both from the intelligence community side and the Justice Department, FBI side. No evidence at all linking Iran to these.
And update us, if you will, on the suspect, Ryan Ruth, charged in the second assassination attempt. What is the latest there? Of course, he was hiding effectively outside Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, he had been staking out locations where he thought Mr. Trump would be for many weeks, it turns out, based on his cell phone location data. These new charges, very significant, haven't been brought in a generation by the Justice Department. It carries a life term in prison. A little bit of tension with the state of Florida because there's a weird provision in this federal statute that says once they bring it, they can't share any information with state officials who may want to bring their own charges. So that's an ongoing drama between the two organizations.
And Ken, just very quickly, the Senate Homeland Security Committee releasing its findings about the initial assassination attempt this summer when Trump was, of course, at that rally in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Just a remarkable report that said that basically no one was in charge of making sure that that site was secure and that the Secret Service never instructed the local police to make sure that that roof was taken care of, and therefore it wasn't. And then there were massive radio communication failures so that even when one Secret Service person knew 2 minutes before the shots were fired that there was a man, an unidentified man on the roof, that was not communicated to Donald Trump's detail. They could have taken him off the stage. Obviously, they didn't. So, and this isn't the last word. There are many other investigations to go, but massive failures.
Incredibly disturbing report. All right, Ken, thanks for breaking all of that down with us. Vaughn, let me go out to you. In North Carolina, we know that the former president did talk about this Iranian threat. What more did he say today? What are your key takeaways?
He said that he was told by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence that the threats were big. One of the campaign co-managers for Donald Trump also this afternoon posting on social media that U.S. intelligence officials should do more to speak publicly about the threats that Iran poses to Donald Trump, at least what was communicated to the former president and Republican nominee yesterday in that meeting. Here in North Carolina at a campaign event just a short time ago, the former president was very explicit, saying that if he becomes president, that Iran will receive the message very clearly. If there is any effort to attack him or any other former president or candidate for president, that Iran, the country, would be blown to, in his word, smithereens. He repeated the word smithereens multiple times to say that he, as president, would not be intimidated by the threats that Iran poses.
And he told the Daily Mail in August that he was not taking intelligence briefings. Talk a little bit about why he decided to take that unusual step. And of course, we should say he now has had one.
Right. Our colleague Jake Traylor has been told by the campaign that Donald Trump will still not take intelligence briefings that are offered to candidates when they become the nominee of their party. And historically, we have seen candidates take those intelligence briefings, but Donald Trump is chosen not to do so. And the reason that has been provided is that he does not want to be accused eventually of leaking any of the information. I was talking with one individual familiar with those conversations that Donald Trump was a part of, in which Trump was concerned that he would be accused by either Democrats or those in the intelligence community of using the assessments provided to him and passing it along to the American public. Of course, during his presidency, the 4 years, there were often concerns about his revealing of otherwise classified information, which he was able to reveal publicly while he was president at the time. And of course, the decision to take classified documents to his Mar-a-Lago estate after leaving the White House, and then, according to the special counsel's office, revealing some of the contents of the information inside of those documents per the allegations outlined by the special counsel in their indictment against him. So Donald Trump choosing publicly to not take those intelligence briefings so as to avoid any such accusations.
And Vaughn, on another foreign policy matter, we should note that the former president's also weighing in on Ukrainian President Zelensky, who, of course, spoke at the UN today. The two were expected to meet tomorrow. That meeting's no longer expected to happen. Talk a little bit about why.
Right. I was told by a campaign official earlier today that the decision to not meet with Zelensky was due in part to the actions of President Zelensky over the course of this week. On Sunday, in an interview with The New Yorker, he was critical of J.D. Vance and J.D. Vance's suggestion that Ukraine may have to sacrifice some of its sovereign land as part of any peace deal with Russia. And then on Monday, Zelensky, he flew to Pennsylvania, a battleground state, and appeared at an ammunitions plant alongside Governor Josh Shapiro, the campaign suggesting that he is a surrogate of the Harris campaign. And then we saw just here today, Donald Trump using the microphone at this campaign event in the most direct ways yet suggests that Ukraine is all but lost here at this point. He saying that that there's not enough money in the world to rebuild Ukraine, of course, which is a misrepresentation of the situation in Kyiv and other towns across Ukraine at this moment in time. But he said that Zelensky missed the opportunity to strike a deal 2 years ago. And he said that Zelensky is somebody who continues to come to the U.S. seeking U.S. financial assistance, tens of billions of dollars, but openly questioning here to this North Carolina crowd whether it's a good investment for Americans to continue to provide such aid, with, as Donald Trump suggested, there apparently no future for Ukraine to take back its land.
Yeah, just a fascinating development, one of the biggest flashpoints and dividing lines within the Republican Party. Vaughn Hillyard, thank you so much. Courtney Kube, let me go out to you. We were just talking about the fact that Secretary Blinken indicated that there have been tracking threats for quite some time, tracking threats potentially against other U.S. officials. What did you make of that? What reporting do you have around that?
So as Ken said, these are threats that the U.S. has been tracking for nearly 5 years now. It goes back to January of 2020 when the U.S. Assassinated Qasem Soleimani. He was a popular Iranian general. He was known for leading the Iranian Quds Force. U.S. officials said very forcefully that he was also directly responsible for the deaths of U.S. service members in Iraq and Syria. So he was someone who the U.S. openly claimed to be a direct enemy. And you'll recall, Kristen, that at the time, then President Donald Trump, after Soleimani was killed at Baghdad airport in January 2020, President Trump came out and said that he had ordered decisive defensive action to protect U.S. troops in the region from this man. Now, of course, only a few days later, the Iranian military carried out a series of ballistic missile strikes attacking al-Assad air base, where there were U.S. troops, and Erbil in the north of Iraq. More than 100 U.S. troops suffered concussions and some traumatic brain injuries. No one was killed in those strikes. But just as a sense of the direct retaliation, it was even codenamed Operation Martyr Soleimani. But that wasn't the end. That's simply not how Iran has historically operated in cases like this. They play the long game. So ever since then, we have been hearing about U.S. officials, people, military leaders who were directly involved in that mission or in the planning or in the execution of it, Pentagon leaders, administration officials, those who were directly involved in that decision have been there's been concerns that they have been there could be threats against them by Iran. And I have to say, Kristen, I don't get any sense from U.S. officials that those threats are going to go away anytime soon.
Well, it's something obviously you will continue to track very closely. I want to quickly play you. Andrea Mitchell had a chance to sit down with the vice president of Iran. I want to play a little bit of that and get your reaction on the other side.
There are numerous American officials from the previous administration and this administration, military as well as diplomatic, who were under 24-hour guard because of, they say, threats of assassination from Iran through third parties.
Well, we do not assassinate people, but the fact of the matter is they assassinated a revered Iranian general.
General Soleimani.
General Soleimani.
But is that a reason to have threats to kill the generals involved?
Well, actions have consequences.
Courtney, pretty ominous words there, and frankly underscores all of the reporting that you have.
Yeah, so I mean, it's exactly what he's saying there. He is saying that the U.S. assassinated this, again, top military leader, someone who was very popular in Iran, by the way, with the people, not just within the military establishment. He was seen as ruthless. He was seen as a shrewd and strategic military commander. So this was a huge, this was a huge world event when he was killed. And you can see just from our colleague Andrea's interview there, Iran has not forgotten.
They absolutely have not, in your reporting about their strategy, playing the long game. You could hear that in his remarks as well. Courtney Kube, as always, thank you so much for bringing your great reporting to us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.